Yes, at the dance school, I was invited to join other people in dance groups, but at the moment, and that would elevate me salary-wise and experience-wise. But then I had just met Joan, and every time they would offer me some advancement, I said, "Oh, I probably had something else in mind to go on later on." So I, so I said, I'd tell Joan about it, and she'd say, "Go ahead and do it, because that's the only way you'll get advancement." I said, "No, forget it." So at one time, I was invited to join this demonstrator for dancing to go overseas with her, because she didn't like the person that she was working with at the present time, and she was getting rid of him, and she wanted me to dance with her because she had seen me dancing and doing other things entered into it. So I had just met Joan, the same time, almost the same time, so I told Joan about it. She says, "Well, go ahead and do it. That's the only way you'll get advancements." So I said, "No," I decided not to do it. So that's when we really got together, Joan and I, and decided to go and I quit, we both quit Arthur Murray's and went to Nashwauk with my parents. So then I worked in the mines for the winter. I mean, it was 40 below zero for the longest time, and I worked there 3 months midwinter. I'd come home and Joan opened the door and a nice warm air would hit me, and wow, and I'd fall asleep before I even had lunch, dinner.
That's when you were newlyweds.
Yeah, and that's when I applied for the University of Colorado, and they accepted me, and that we decided to go there and get a master's.
Sometimes he had so many requests, he'd have to kind of sort through which ones do I want to do. For example, I'm getting married, and there's a dance you do at the end of your, what do you call that dance, Leonard, at the wedding? When the wedding people. I'm talking about when you first go out, the first dance.
Is
the
done by the bride and groom.
The first dance.
Yeah, that was
just the first dance.
Yeah, and they would, especially the girls, and then the guys would say, "You should see me dance, left, right, left, back, forth, back, forth." He said, "I have to at least do one turn," and everybody's watching us, and so he'd give them 10 lessons, and then somebody would go to the wedding and they would say, "Wow, they look so neat." That turn will get them every time.
And
under the arm turn.
One of the couples I had was 85 years of age. One of the couples in San Bernardino.
Wow.
So I go to their house, and I went there about maybe 6 or 7 times. They were going on a cruise, and they wanted to dance, and they'd never done much before. So I worked with them and really got them moving patterns in different dances. They came back from their cruise, which was a 3 or 4 month cruise. They were going to be on the ship that long. That's the reason they wanted to learn dancing. So they came back, they hunted me out, and they thanked me for doing it because they said that's the best time we ever had on the cruise because of the dancing. I was able to move without really thinking much about it and do the right moves and the right styling. And the styling is a big thing. Yeah.
So you felt you were a natural dancer?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
And you started at 12
See,
years
Joan
old?
was more mechanical.
12 years old you started?
Mm-hmm.
Around when you were
Yeah,
young
my
teenager?
cousins who were gals, they were older, not old, but maybe teenagers. And
When-
I was 10, 12 years old. They would take me and go through some of the patterns with, because John, their brother, and they had 3 girls. John, their brother, he and I would dance together at times at some of these special 4th of July deals and everything. And we'd win a 6-pack of beer or something because we we were the best dancers there. But we wouldn't even dance with a female. We'd dance one another, and I'd get rough with them, flip them over my back, between the legs, and all that stuff. And that was really
Would
something.
it be like a jitterbug dance, like a standard dance?
Yeah,
for
yeah.
those 2 men?
Yeah. People didn't seem to think anything about
Right.
that.
No,
Especially jitterbug, they could do a lot of through the legs and over the head, and that the girls couldn't do.
more like acrobatic
Yeah.
stuff.
But it was a big thing, dancing. It's kind of like the kids nowadays are kind of missing that by just listening.
Oh yeah,
They listen.
every Sunday we'd go to the local hall that had a Nickelodeon. Then the owner would put in nickels and dimes so that we would dance. We'd pick anybody.
In
That
Nashville?
was we'd dance Saturday, Sunday afternoons.
Was that in Nashville?
Yeah.
Pardon?
Was that in Nashville?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that was
in
his
some of the
hometown.
smaller towns around there. So
Yeah.
they were all the same towns, and you knew just about half of the population in a neighboring town.
And don't you
You
think?
knew everybody in Nashwauk, but half of the population in other.
What were the names of some of the surrounding towns that you went to do that?
Marble, Calumet, Keewatin, Buell. No, Buell was a little farther. Chisholm,
Hibbing?
all of those.
And Hibbing was a little bigger town.
Yeah, Hibbing
That
was
was-
bigger, but
It's really
but
not
we
big.
knew more people in the smaller towns because Hibbing was 25,000. That was too big compared to 1,500 where we live.
But when you were in the service, the guys would say, "You know everybody."
Yeah.
And even in a foxhole, he'd say, "Hi, so and so," and he said, "Well, when you live in a little town, you know everybody." And
When we were walking anywhere like San Diego or the area overseas, somebody would always say, "Hey, Peachy!" And they'd yell, and here they are, thousands of miles from Nashwauk or some of the little towns around there, and they knew me. Frank Guadino didn't meet anyone. He lived in the middle of Chicago. He says, I didn't even know my neighbors down the street in Chicago. And here I knew it. Everybody seemed to know me.
yeah, do you remember that one friend said, "Do you know everybody in Minnesota?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Just about." Okay. What happened when my parents met? Yeah. Okay. Okay. It was kind of like I was scared. If my parents are going to like Leonard, and Leonard is kind of like after coming out of the war, he's tough. He rolls his shirt up, and he doesn't always say the right thing because he's been around men all this time, tough men, and a war going on, and so I was kind of scared. But they loved him. How could you not love him? And the next step is go see his parents in Minnesota. Oh, I was scared stiff. So he went back to start. I have to go backtrack. his parents loved me. His dad put his arms around me and he said, "You sent us a picture." And it was a nice, gentle, sweet, loving picture of me that I had taken when I graduated. And but it shows a gentleness and a, oh, I don't know, and his dad said all he ever went out and dated was floozies. And he said, I got that picture of that sweet face, and he said, I kissed that picture, and he said, oh, thank you, God, in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Oh, I'm going backwards. That's because he's holding my hand. But his parents embraced me, and his dad adored me because he expected that he was going to end up with one of these, because he went to all the town halls and stuff and dance, right? And that's all that was there was the locals. And most of them hadn't gone to school or anything, and they were just out to have fun. So then what? You did go to school. We did have a baby. A baby was Lance. I have to tell you about that because we didn't expect that I'd get pregnant that soon because we didn't know much about things in those days. How do you get pregnant? But I was thrilled to death, and so was Leonard. And we were at St. Cloud. That's was your first step to go back to school.
St. Cloud.
Yeah, St. Cloud, Minnesota. Lovely town in Minnesota. We found a room with a lovely, lovely family, and they really wanted us. And they knew I was expecting. And her name was Mrs. Thien, Rose Thien. And she took us in as one of the family, and they fixed an apartment for us, and they bought us a hot plate. And never mind the story about I almost burned it down one night because I forgot to turn it off when we went to bed. That wasn't too good. I didn't tell her about that. Well, anyhow, they're kind of like our parents, and we got very fond of them too. And so Leonard's winter comes and he can walk across the Mississippi River. Not me. To go to school, and that's a big shortcut.
And that's a wide part of the Mississippi.
Yeah. But can you imagine? It's
But
frozen.
that was in the wintertime, not the
What
summer.
kind of shoes did you wear?
Yeah. Well,
What kind of
yeah.
shoes?
What kind of shoes?
What was it like walking across the Mississippi?
I don't.
Oh, I could do it, but I wouldn't do it on a real windy day because it was down way below zero then.
Oh, it was
So,
cool.
so I would put a regular jacket on and dress the way you did at that time.
What about the soles of the shoes?
Oh, I had good rubber shoes and galoshes.
And galoshes. Nobody knows
No,
that
we
word
all
anymore.
wore galoshes, so that kept your feet warm.
I'm just picturing you sliding and slipping.
Well, you learn how to step.
But boy, did we wait for spring. And I want to tell you that I knew the names of all the flowers. Gaillardias, cosmos, and even violets. I mean, he didn't know the names of any of the flowers. And so on the way to the school, there was a beautiful park that had lovely flowers in the summer. And so when I was pregnant with Lance, he should be, do you love flowers, Lance? Well, anyhow, he does. And Leonard learned the names of all. I'd quiz him every day. What's that one called? Petunia! And so the time went, and pretty soon it's 9 months. And I don't know anything about childbirth. I didn't even get to read anything much about it. But anyhow, one day he's there. And you know what our hospital bill was? I think,
$60.
yeah, something, $67. Can you believe that? I still have that piece of paper somewhere.
Was that a month's pay?
That was what it cost to go to the hospital and have a baby.
But was that 67 like a month's pay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was quite a bit at that time.
You know, like bread was probably 10 cents a loaf or something like that. So I suppose it's all relative, but it was, if we could scrape that together, on how much did you get from the Army service, Marines?
Well, I was in a parachute outfit. We got flight pay, which was $100 a month. But before I was a parachutist, I got $50 a month. So they doubled our pay to flight pay.
So, anyhow,
How much did you get on the GI Bill after you were out?
Did you get GI Bill?
How much?
They didn't give you anything
Oh, yeah,
unless
they
you
give you-
had. Oh yeah, they gave you.
$12.
I can't remember
It was a
what it was,
even in those days.
but after you got out of the service, and if you didn't have a job, they put you on a special deal. But as soon as you started back to college, you lost it.
So they paid for college, but not for your cost of living.
Yeah.
So they expected everybody to work
Oh yeah.
while they went to college.
Well, you had to.
They expected everyone to work at the same time they went to college, all the GIs.
I think so.
Probably because I was able to do it because of my dancing experience. So I would have my own classes and develop classes for the universities that I attended because they didn't have any ballroom dance classes. They had all the other kinds of classes. So I'd go in and talk to them about introducing a social and a ballroom dancing, and I would take charge of it. So they says, okay, and then they paid me, and paid me pretty well, like they did some of the other teachers. So we weren't able to pinch pennies all along the way.
Well, anyhow, I want to tell you that the Theans where we were staying, they thought she had 5 kids at all stages, you know, and I think the youngest, they weren't young people, and the youngest one was Doreen, and when I was pregnant, I couldn't help him with his dance class, fill in when he needed help or something. So when I got too pregnant, he asked Doreen if she would come, because she was a good dancer. And you just sort of laid low in those days. Nowadays, you just wander around and show off, stand up straight and show them the bump.
Social graces.
Talk about that.
Do it again.
Yeah, we had a person that talked at Arthur Murray talked to us about how to address people, how to talk before people, how to extend your personality, everything. And she was from Hollywood that worked with some of the actors and actresses
Yeah,
in Hollywood.
I think they spent a lot of money and time on preparing their teachers.
Yeah, they prepared their teachers really well because that meant an income for them,
And
so that was part of
I
it.
have to interject. They even taught you how to sit, and you cross your ankles, not your knees. You never cross your knees. It makes you look very awkward and inexperienced. So they taught what they teach the men.
About how to sit.
I caught you unprepared. What did they teach the men on manners and stuff? It was really efficient.
Now, the people who were coming, were they spending a lot of money? Was it a luxury to go?
yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
They would have a contract, an extended contract.
Yeah.
And another thing that helped me was that I had 100% of the people that I worked with that re-signed. And that's where they get you elevated in your salary steps. And how many are going to re-sign? I had 100%, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was very popular. Every class was full. He had a lot of private students. He was very talented. If he lived near Hollywood, he probably would have been out there with Fred Astaire.
So you went on and used those skills that you had in dancing to teach when you were in Colorado,
Yeah,
going to school there at night.
St.
Where
Cloud,
did you teach?
St. Cloud, University of Colorado, Pomona College.
At the college.
Even though I didn't attend Pomona College, I went over and talked to them, and they decided to offer a dancing class, social dancing.
And then while teaching in high school, you taught at night and on weekends, dancing?
Yeah, then I taught a lot of private people.
Or both of you did?
Yes, and your YMCA, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
private.
YMCA,
Yeah.
every time San Bernardino, every year I'd,
And country clubs?
whatever, and some private homes where
And
number of doctors, there were about 5 doctors that got together, and they'd go to one another homes when I'd meet with them, and that I'd teach them at their homes.
Did you ever think of opening Leonard Pecchia's school?
Well,
of dance?
almost in St. Cloud. They wanted me to start a school in St. Cloud, but then I decided I wanted to go to California, and sooner or later, because of the weather we had to encounter in Minnesota, and I had experienced the good weather in the Marines, so we decided to come out to California.
And then,
But they wanted me to start a school in St. Cloud.
Yeah, I always think of you when we go to LA, to the LA County Museum. I think it's on Fairfax or one of the other main streets. There's an old-fashioned sign, probably from that era, that says Leonard School of Dance.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen it? It's a vertical sign.
And then during high school, you taught the YMCA on weekends, along with your coaching and teaching and everything. YMCA, right?
Yeah, the
And
YMCA.
both of you taught, right?
While I'm going to
no, I didn't teach her.
Oh, you didn't?
in St. Cloud, while I'm going to
I subbed.
college,
San Bernardino.
in San Bernardino, generally I would have classes in YMCA, and after all the sessions, say 10 sessions, I'd start another group. So I had it going quite often.
And then you continued it into college when you began teaching at Cypress College. You
Yeah,
continued teaching dancing, except as a class, right?
as a class.
Did you have to talk them into having a class there at
Yes.
Cypress?
Yep, because they didn't have a social dance class. But when I offered it, then they gave units for it, credit for an activity, some kind of
Yeah,
activity credit. So a lot of people signed for it that didn't get credit, though. They came in at night.
And were those classes well attended?
Oh, yeah. One class I had 200 in it. 200 students.
Oh, is that
So, but I knew, and I was teaching it by myself, but I gave them full attention, and the thing that I had in mind, I knew what would happen along the way. There were some people who would drop, some who had problems at home. Sooner or later, you're going to come to a number that is manageable. And that's what happens.
Yeah, but he was popular.
Yeah, when I was about 14 years of age, 13, 14, I used to have, during the summer, we'd have the windows open. And I'd always sing in the mornings. I'd get up and dress and eat and then sing. Well, the neighbor up the street, a block away, would hear me. So he came over one day, and that went on for about a couple of years. So finally he came over and he says, Leonard, I'd like to support you as far as going to Juilliard School of Music in Minneapolis. And I said, okay. So he took me down to Minneapolis and I tried out with him. And for some reason I changed my mind like I did along the way. So I felt I didn't want to go in that direction because I'd been playing all the sports and everything, and I thought maybe I'd be a good enough sports person, even though I might have thought I couldn't make it. There's a feeling that you can. Everybody who's a sports person thinks they can make it, but they don't. So I decided not to go on with Juilliard School of Music. But while I was with my uncle, I signed up with the singer, a teacher, through the government, and the government would have paid for it. And this guy was really a wonderful baritone. And he had interviewed me and everything and was ready to go with him, and I changed my mind. Otherwise, I wouldn't have met Joan, and
Where
I
did you
wouldn't
meet him? Where did you meet him?
have in Detroit.
The teacher?
In Detroit, when I was with my uncle. So I met him. Actually, he was part of a training group that the government recognizes it. They were ready to pay him, and I probably wouldn't have even gone to university after that. I wouldn't have met Joan, because this was before Joan got into the picture. So I went there, sang for him, and he says, okay, I'd like to work with you. And from that time on, I probably would have stayed with music and singing and done pretty well there, because once you're with Juilliard School of Music, and he was part of this. No, that was a different deal. That was different because this was an individual who represented the university, some university music center there.
Was it in Minneapolis also?
No,
Oh, that was
Detroit. Yeah,
So once again, you decided not to do it.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a history.
Yeah.
Goes by the gut, huh?
I was
By
really
your
worried
gut.
I was really worried that Leonard might change his mind
But-
at the altar because
But by changing my mind in the service, I think that saved my life on Iwo Jima, because something would tell me, don't go in that position. Somebody else would go and they were gone.
I need to go back a little because I just think this is really important to know. That I got, when I looked at that ad, to think that Leonard had looked at the same ad and that he had an opportunity to advance rapidly and I didn't, because I wasn't good like he was. And I just loved him more when he said, "No, we met and we love each other, and I'm not going to leave you." And I just stuck in my heart forever that he gave up an opportunity, and but he just had the idea opportunities are everywhere. He never worried about things like that. But when I first saw him, there's 50 men in this room. But I only saw him, I didn't see anybody else. And that's just, and when I watched him dance, and he was teaching the teachers, and I was one of the new teachers, wow. And then, of course, after we were married, he told me that he was a polished dancer. By the time he was 12, he was dancing with the 18-year-olds because they all wanted to dance with him because he just made up steps, and he just had that feeling where I'm a good teacher, but I'm not a really good dancer. But when we got together, he made me be a good dancer. And that's what's so tricky. But I did skip a part when I was talking about when we were first married, because the only way I could get a job was, what's your experience? Well, I was a country teacher. A country teacher, what's that? But then there was a neighbor that lived about 2 blocks from there that we met in the park one day, and she said, "Oh, we need a teacher, and I teach out in the country, and we can't get a teacher. We need a 5th grade teacher, and school's going to start in 2 weeks." And she said, "I'll take you there. I drive every day. You don't have to have a car. I'll pick you up." Wow, how much they pay. And I was pleasantly surprised that it was a pretty sophisticated country school. And they had a principal, and they had 6 rooms. You know, it's not a 1-room stand this time. But it still was shocking to me how much work it was. You know, they had a word called curriculum. I never heard that word before. and it just was like they were kind of good kids because they hadn't been exposed to gangs and things like that. The kids were kind of good. And a very amazing thing which I learned early on was that they will actually rule themselves if you give them a chance. Not in every case, but they were always picking on one kid. And one day a kid stood up and he said, "It's not right. Why are we always picking on Christopher?" Because he's kind of small.
Don't.
So I'm not going to talk anymore about that. But
No.
I learned a lot there. But then I got pregnant, and I'm thinking, oh God, I hope we don't show too much because they don't talk about pregnancy. But then you have to leave, and you can't be married. And that's why I'm out in the country, because that's the way the world was. But back to our lives. Pick it up, kid.